Raider Nation, good morning. It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and I'm bringing you this video because the Las Vegas Raiders made two roster moves, and I just want to be able to talk about it. The Silver and Black also brought in some players on a workout, and we might hear a little bit more about some of those guys later on today, but if you did not know, the Raiders made two roster moves, and that's why I want you to hit that subscribe button. I know technically, it happened yesterday, but I'm going to be honest with y'all because I spent Monday with y'all. During my wife's birthday yesterday night was all about her, so I saw the news come in from the agent of Jon Rhattigan, and that's who the first player that the Raiders decided to bring in was. And, you know, when they decided to move on from Germaine Pratt, obviously, you know, we heard some things that were going on behind the scenes. I didn't think it would get to a point where it'd be so bad that you would move on from Germaine Pratt. But here's the thing. Germaine Pratt was a linebacker that this team relied on, and now the Raiders go out. They add another linebacker. His name is Jon Rhattigan, who, inside linebacker, I'm going to be honest with you, I think he's just more of a special teams guy. Coming up here on the show, I'll try to add, you know, some of the other things that he might be able to bring to the table. But this is a Pete Carroll guy, and you know, like, I roll my eyes a little bit because this is kind of what the Raiders have done all season, all offseason long, where they have a player in Germaine Pratt who's better, and when they lose him, instead of trying to find a player who is equally as good, they go out and they try to replace him with a Pete Carroll guy, a culture guy, and that's exactly what Jon Rhattigan is. Now, I don't want that to come off here and say, like, I don't think it's an interesting move. To me, if you watched my live show yesterday, and I did talk about one of the moves that I'm going to bring up here today on my live show last night, but to me, the Raiders have a major issue that not many people are talking about. I know I discussed it yesterday, but that's why Rhattigan, you know, again, was the move that the Raiders decided to make. He played 4 years at Army, didn't get too much playing time, did get to be a starter by his senior season with Army. And, you know, I look at a player like what the Raiders are dealing with right now, and we need a lot of help in the fundamental department. So you bring a player in like Rhattigan, who's got some of those fundamentals down from Army. Also played with the Seattle Seahawks from 2021 to 2023, where he was mainly, again, a special teams type of player, but also was on the Panthers in 2024, is still listed as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Now, the Raiders haven't made this announcement official. I am simply just going off of what Rhattigan's agent tweeted late last night, that the Raiders and Rhattigan ended up getting a deal done because of his connection with Pete Carroll. I'm assuming that this is one that is obviously done. But again, to me, what's the reason why the Raiders went ahead and made this move? And I'm going to ask the nation because I have my personal opinion of what I think of certain things, but, you know, this is not a flashy, this is not a sexy move by any means, but at the end of the day, when the Raiders end up making a move, I'm going to do my best to keep you guys up to date. So you're going to get hit with a YouTube ad break. While that ad is playing, I want you to scroll on down and give me your answer here. Why do you think the Raiders went out and signed linebacker Jon Rhattigan? The first reason why I believe this move was made was obviously the replacement of Germaine Pratt. You're you're already in the middle of the season. It's week 6. So you probably want to be able to bring somebody in that was at least on a roster. Again, he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers practice squad. So you want to be able to bring somebody in that's, you know, kind of in shape a little bit. Somebody that's worked with a member of our front office. Reminder, the Raiders brought over some members from the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. But the replacement of Germaine Pratt, no doubt about it. But to me, I think the biggest reason why the Raiders did this was because of their special teams issues. I brought this up yesterday when I was on the show, kind of going over some of the problems that I had with Pete Carroll, John Spytek, and this regime overall. And I said it yesterday, the first coach for the Raiders that will get fired, if a coach gets fired, will be special teams coordinator Tom McMahon. And, you know, McMahon was a hire with Telesco. He was a hire part of the Antonio Pierce regime. And when they made that move, you go back, you can check out my video. I was like, this guy has not been a very good special teams coach. And you're seeing right now the Raiders have arguably, I think, the worst special teams unit in the National Football League. So you bring in a guy like Rhattigan who's got over 1,000, I believe the number's 1,000 plus snaps at special teams. He's got 38 tackles during that time, a forced fumble. So, like, we clearly need help on all three phases, no doubt about it, right? And instead of going out and trying to find a linebacker that's up to the level of Germaine Pratt, that's not going to happen. I think what the Raiders are going to do is actually in a sense, kind of smart for a team that needs to rebuild, right? We're 1-4. We're not going to win anything that we need to win. So how do we rebuild? We let other players get the most of those opportunities. So I think what you're going to see is instead of replacing Germaine Pratt, we're going to take the players that we have on our roster and you're going to use Jamal Adams a little bit more. I know Pete Carroll hinted at Charles Snowden, Malcolm Kuntz, and Jamal Adams being the players that replace Germaine Pratt. Personally, I think if you're using Malcolm Kuntz and Charles Snowden the way that you would use or supposed to use Pratt, I think it's unbelievably idiotic, but what do I know? I hope, though, they just keep on using Jamal Adams as the linebacker replacement. What I hope it actually means, though, is that Tommy Eichenberg gets some more reps out there at linebacker, that Cody Lindenberg, who you drafted in the 7th round, gets some more reps out there because Lindenberg hadn't even played this season. So since we're 1-4, since we got to try to rebuild, since we're kind of building for the future here a little bit, let's let some of these younger players get some extra reps. And that's a good sign. Like, to me, if you're a Raiders fan, you should see the Jon Rhattigan signing and be like, well, at least Tommy Eichenberg, at least Cody Lindenberg should hopefully get more reps. Hopefully Jamal Adams gets some more playing time, which he absolutely positively deserves. But to me, you got to be able to clean it up in all three aspects. I know we talk a lot about the offense. I know we talk a lot about Chip. We talk a lot about Geno. We talk a lot about, certain players on defense. But our special teams unit has been a catastrophic failure, and it's one of the worst special teams units in the NFL. So you go out, you bring in a guy like Jon Rhattigan who's going to help you with that. And listen to this. The Raiders right now on special teams are last in EPA and DVOA. If you don't know what that means, expanded points added. Also, defense adjusted value over average. Right now, the Raiders are on pace for a league record in the lowest EPA. So, when you're dead last and you're on pace to set a league record in anything in regards to special teams, I think that's one metric that outlines how bad it is. Then you talk about A.J. Cole. A.J. Cole's the best punter on the planet. He's actually also having his worst year of his entire career. And I'll tell you this, it's not all that close. It is by far the worst year of his career. Think about how bad Geno Smith is playing. And I know, I'm not trying to compare Geno to A.J. Cole, but when you compare what Geno Smith is doing this year compared to what he's done the previous 3 years, I think that you could look at what A.J. Cole is doing and be like, it's equally as bad when you compare it to the previous 3 years. Then, we know, obviously, we lost the game due to a blocked field goal in that Bears game. Also, there's been a punt return touchdown against us. There's been a blocked punt against us. This organization decided to put, Zamir White at kick return and bench Raheem Mostert because Mostert at 32 years old was like, hey, man, I don't want to play special teams. Kind of lame there, right? 30th in the NFL in missed tackles on special teams. So you bring in a guy like Rhattigan, who's got over 1,000 snaps, who's got over 38 special teams tackles. Hopefully he's able to help you out there. But I think this is the stat that is probably the most eye-popping of, again, why this might be considered a sneaky good move by the Raiders. Right now, the opponents, when you're going up against the Raiders, their average start of field position is the 37-yard line. The Raiders, that is dead last in the NFL. So that means when you're going up against the Raiders, you're going to have the best field position on average in the NFL starting at the 37-yard line. For the Raiders offense, we have also the worst starting position in the NFL, starting on average at the 26-yard line. And when I illustrate a lot of my frustrations with this team, it's because we are failing in all three aspects of the game. But I understand that sometimes you got to make the unsexy move to make a special teams unit a little bit prettier, and I'm hoping the Jon Rhattigan signing is exactly that. Coming up next here on the show, we're going to get into the other Raiders roster move and some of the things that, again, could get announced today. I'll kind of break it all down for you guys. Before I do, though, today's show sponsor, Prize Picks. And today is going to be a fun day for me. And, Wednesdays for me are a little bit different just because of how long my days are on Tuesdays and Mondays here at Chat Sports. But today, I'm going to get off work a little bit early. Today, I'm going to watch a ton, and I mean a ton of playoff baseball. And if you're not a baseball fan, I suggest getting a Prize Picks lineup in and then watch how much of a fan you become. And it's honestly super simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. Prize Picks, they're going to put their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Prize Picks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. The other thing that I love about Prize Picks is they have a flex play, which is the thing that I like to do. And, I'll typically go with 3 to 4 players. If it's like a game day, like an NFL game, a football game, then, I'll consider probably going with something like a little bit bigger of a lineup like you've typically seen me do. Like last Monday night, I did 5 picks to win. I did 6 picks. I got 5 out of the 6 right. It was $10. I ended up winning 17. But, in that Jags and Chiefs game, in a game that you might not care about, you're invested in it a little bit more because, you got a chance to put some money in your pocket. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Those links also for you guys down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. All right, let's go to the other move that the Raiders made, and I kind of talked about this one yesterday when I was live on the show. If you don't know, I go live every single Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. I go live every single Thursday Night Football, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I go live 1 hour before Raiders game days. I go live every single Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And then I go live for Monday Night Football. A lot of live content here on the Raiders Report, but the Raiders, they went out and they signed punter Brad Robbins to the practice squad. They did that because A.J. Cole right now is battling a minor injury. He had to leave the game early against the Indianapolis Colts, and that also kind of makes sense why the Raiders brought in some other players that they did yesterday for a tryout. But if you're like, Mitch, who the hell is Brad Robbins? Maybe he's related to Ed Robbins. Shout out to one of the GOATs here on Raiders Report. But again, Brad Robbins is I'm not going to call him a Carroll guy. I'm going to call him this type of regime guy. Why? He played football at Michigan from 2017 to 2022. We know what connections mean to this roster. John Spytek, Tom Brady, both Michigan guys. Was a 6th-round pick in the 2023 NFL Draft by the Cincinnati Bengals, where he played 2 years from 2023 to 2024. He was also with the Buffalo Bills this past season and now is on the Raiders practice squad. The Raiders, though, not only worked out Robbins, they also worked out punter Ryan Stonehouse and long snapper Luke Elkin. I saw somebody on social media say, like, oh, man, is Bob and Moyer now going to be in trouble because we're working out Elkin? You got to think about what teams do when they bring in a punter. You're going to have to also bring in probably another long snapper. That way, everybody can get to work, right? Because Bob and Moyer, he's going to be working with probably Daniel Carlson. He's going to probably be working with A.J. Cole. Probably going to be working, a little bit with our new practice squad punter and Brad Robbins, where now if you also need to be able to evaluate another punter potentially, then you're going to bring in an extra long snapper like Luke Elkin, and then again, Ryan Stonehouse. Sounds like he ended up losing the competition to Robbins, who ended up getting the gig for the practice squad. Now, some of you, again, what does this mean for A.J. Cole? I'm hoping that Cole's healthy. I'm hoping that he's able to go out there because clearly, if there's one thing that this Raiders team needs, it's a good punter, right? We need to be able to flip the field because our offense can't score any points. But I'm hoping that Ratigan can honestly, help out the special teams unit, and I'm hoping that we get back on track against the Tennessee Titans. It seems like it's going to be a long year, but the more and more we start wrapping our mind around maybe this season being a rebuild and not being a season that, we're actually trying to win stuff, like, I'm okay with that if we start playing some of these younger players, if we start getting some of these extra reps, and if we start proving that we are finally moving and trending in the right direction. That's all I want to see is improvement. That's all I want to see is improvement. And I think all Raider fans, that's all they really, truly want to see is improvement. All right, y'all, I'm hopping on out of here. If anything else happens today, obviously I'm going to get you guys another video. You will get another video a little bit later on today. It's going to be around Chip Kelly and some of his offensive failures, if you will, with the silver and black. But again, the 2 roster moves that the Raiders made, they signed linebacker Jon Rhattigan. He's mainly just going to be a special teams player. I think this means more work for Jamal Adams, more work for Tommy Eichenberg, and hopefully more work for Cody Lindenberg. But also the Raiders signed Brad Robbins to the practice squad as a punter. Appreciate each and every one of y'all tuning in. Rhattigan is the new replacement for Germaine Pratt. If you want even more videos around the Las Vegas Raiders, make sure you click the subscribe button right here. I promise you I got you covered. And if you're looking for even more content around the silver and black, YouTube's going to recommend this video here for you. They're also going to recommend this video for you. I know that this show might be a little bit different from what I typically do, but I like to be able to do these when information comes in. Appreciate each and every all tuning in. Have a good day.